Welcome to Sports Back Talk with Boley and Ringer, and well, we had a week off.
Yeah, it was. Why did we have a week off? Grandkids.
You had the grandkids.
Yeah.
You were busy.
I got a fifth one now, and a great
Congratulations.
Fifth granddaughter named Frances Louise.
I never got to tell you why I liked that name when we did that on the radio last week. You told me that her name
Here's
was
your
Frances.
opportunity.
And here's the opportunity. See, my middle name is Francis.
Okay.
And my wife's middle name is Francis. So the name Francis has a very. I was named for my grandmother. My middle name for my grandmother. My wife for her grandfather. So
okay.
So Francis is a very nice name. I think it's a very good choice.
Yeah, and it's a name kind of like Kim or certain names. Lexi can have both boy or girl. My confirmation name was actually Francis. It shows a little bit of Catholic in me. My whole side, Gerlach side of my family, they had like my grandpa, my mom's dad was Francis, and then we had some other. Anyways, Louise is from Diana Louise. So now that's Francis Louise.
So is it going to be Franny, Francis? What are we calling her, Grandpa?
It's automatic, Franny Lou.
Franny Lou.
I mean, that's where it's going right now. But my youngest or the oldest daughter in the same family, Quinn. She makes sure she tells everybody it's Francis. Don't call her Franny. Okay, it's
she's
Francis.
How old?
She's 6.
6.
Yeah. So she's making sure.
She is in charge.
Yeah, I mean that's right. I mean that's the name we gave her, or they gave her. So that's what we should call her. It's like kind of like, they don't call you Timmy or Timothy. Remember you said you would get mad if people called you Timmy, and I don't care if people call me Mike or Michael. That doesn't bother me, but. Just don't call me late for supper.
There you go. So, well, where should we start this week? You were tweeting out earlier today that you want to rant. So what is
not really rant.
What would you like to rant about the most this week?
Well, it's probably the Wild.
Okay, let's start with
Ringer.
The Wild. It seems like whenever I talk to you, one time you're ready to blow them up, the next time we can still work, and then you're ready to blow them up again.
I think I've been pretty consistent with them this year.
You want to blow them up?
Well, I made a comment the other day, and I got a nice response. I said,
Is that what you're looking for? Some responses?
Here's what happens when you make a comment. I mean, not to name drop, but if certain people reply back.
You made
kind of like he's a radio personality on KFAN. Okay, so he commented back. He thinks the big problem with the Wild is the lack of depth, not only on the forward, but more importantly back on the defense. So he mentioned that as a big reason, and I really agree with him. But when you have a personality with hundreds of thousands of followers, well, now I wake up the next morning, I got 18 responses. Normally when I make a comment, I might get a couple likes and maybe 1 or 2 responses. But when you get someone with a big following, all of a sudden now I got lots of critiquing, lots of answers. And a lot of them were good. A lot of them were the same old, fire the coach and blame this and blame that. But I tend to agree. I think they lack identity, Ringer. And here's the deal. My comment came out as I said, the last 5 years I've always felt when the Wild were getting ready to play a game that night, I always felt they had a really good chance of winning. This year, almost every game they've played, I've kind of had that doubt that I don't know if they can. I went and watched Colorado and the Wild on Saturday at Daddy Daycare, otherwise known as Buffalo Wild Wings. So Diana drops me off there. And so anyways, Colorado was better. They were quicker. They were faster. Okay, the Wild won, but they weren't as good as the Colorado Avalanche.
Okay, so last year we know that Colorado was probably maybe the worst, pretty close to the worst team in the NHL.
By far. Yep.
Do you feel like maybe Colorado has something to work for? I mean, they got to come out and prove it every night, and that maybe the Wild, who had 106 points or whatever last year, are just on cruise control and saying, well, we can turn it on when we need to turn it on. I mean, do you kind of feel like that's what it is, or is it something
Well, they got a coach that won't allow that to happen. First of all, I just think Colorado's gotten better. They brought up some young players. They've added some nice players. I think it's a team. Todd Notto played the UMD Bulldog, who has some ties to International Falls here, and they're just quick, fast. McKinnon and Landeskog, and they just got a lot of talent. And the perfect example to me, and where it really hurt, was Saturday's game against the Blues.
Yeah.
Okay. Last year, I commented, the Wild were better than the Blues. Actually, quite a bit better.
Okay.
If you remember in the playoffs, St. Louis played a defensive style a game against the Wild. They basically let the Wild get 40, 45 shots a game because they were the better team. Okay? And then St. Louis would wait for their chances, get a break, and shoot and score. And, every game was a one-goal game, basically, with St. Louis. I mean, the Wild could have been up 3-0 in that series, and actually St. Louis was the team that was up 3-0.
Right.
So the Wild were definitely the better team. Now, 6 to 7 months later, St. Louis is far and above the Wild right now. Okay? Physicality, speed, strength, goaltending, defense, especially back on the blue line. And the Wild have really gotten weak back there. They're basically go 3 deep. Dumba's comes and goes. I know Boudreau was expecting, so with Fletcher, they were both expecting Olofsson and Riley to make that next step. They have not done that. So now you're going 2 other D that are liabilities. Now you got to put Quincy in. Everybody's attacking Quincy. Well, Quincy was brought in like a Nate Prosser. Okay, I'm your 7th defenseman. Okay, I'll be here when I'm needed. Injuries, guys like Riley, maybe not, but 3 of the defensemen that were supposed to be regulars are not playing well, Ringer. And Quincy's getting put out there, and he shouldn't be out there. It's a mess right now, and everything starts back on the blue line because that's kind of where everything starts. The goaltending's been erratic. I think Stalock's almost ready to take over that position. I think tonight would be a good time for him to do that. It just seems like Dubnyk's more worried about the refs and worried about traffic in front of his net and not so much worried about stopping pucks. But there's a lot of issues, Ringer, and the 20-somethings, the core players, the Nito Riders, who's played well. Nino's played well. Coyle's starting to play a little better. Granlund's been injured. All those 20-somethings, we got rid of Hall. I don't know if they're as good as Chuck Fletcher thought they were going to be. And of course, we got a long line of older guys in Koivu and Stahl and Parisi and Suter. I mean, we got too many. And there's just not the young guys aren't coming up. The ones coming up from the minors aren't. I mean, Lucia was drafted in 2nd round. Zach Mitchell, 1st round. There's a bunch of wasted draft picks. And I could go on and on. I just don't see it with this team. I see him as a bottom feeder the rest of the way, even when Parisi comes back. I could be wrong. I've been wrong once or twice this year already, and but I don't see it changing.
Well, I guess that's kind of where I was going to go, because it seems like hockey kind of gets this this momentum. You kind of get this feel for things, but this team seems to be. You watch them against New Jersey, and they decided they were going to turn it on in the 3rd period, and then I didn't get to watch either of the 2 games over the weekend. But they get the win on Friday in a shootout, right, and then Saturday lose big time to St. Louis. And like I said, I didn't get to see either one, but it just seems like it's this one game they play like they seem like they're ready to make the next step, or they're turning it around, and then the next game they come back and they're just gone. And I don't know if Saturday's game had something to do with back-to-back, or not
to interrupt, but I wouldn't even see it as a game. I've seen periods, Ringer. Yeah. I have not seen a full game where it looked like from the drop of the puck to the end of the game, the Wild were in control of that game. And that happened a lot with this Wild team the last 5 years, where I could watch the first 5 shifts and say, okay, they're on, everything's good, they should win.
So I'm going to change gear a little bit,
okay.
Change avenue. So let's talk about St. Louis. Mike Yeo, the former Wild coach.
Ironically.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Yeo was fired here, or whatever it was, 2 years ago or whatever, you kind of talked about that he took the Wild from here to this level, and then they got tired of listening to him, and they went back this way. Is this going to happen with St. Louis? Because last year they were down here. Now they're kind of making this rise, and they're going to be up here. Is it going to be one of those things that it's going to fall off? And then Is the same thing happening with Boudreau? Have the players already gotten tired of it? Because it seems to me he comes in there, and you always say it, the players got to self-motivate themselves.
They do.
Bruce can't sit there and try to get after him a little bit. So, I don't know, well, I'll let you answer the Yeo thing first.
Well, the Yeo thing is, Mike Yeo learned a lot. Then the Blues are going to pay the benefit of that. Okay, and he admitted he made mistakes. Okay, he let, how do they say it, the old prisoners run the asylum? He did let that happen in Minnesota. He's not letting it happen in
Good thing
St.
you don't
Louis.
own an NFL team or anything.
And I really don't see the personalities on St. Louis to possibly cause that problem. Okay, I know where the problem is on the Wild. He's not even playing. He's a big issue. Okay, and
I know where you're going.
Okay, I mean when you start inviting
watch the show,
you start inviting friends and players to practices to help with power plays and things like that, and they're sitting up in the stands while Yell's trying to conduct a practice. That's not good. That's really bad. And I've heard other things too. But Mike Yeo is a better coach because of what happened to him in Minnesota. The players basically quit on him. Okay, and now you hear a lot of comments that this group of players is quitting on Boudreau. Won't let that happen. Boudreau's.
But how do you know that? I mean, how do you know that?
How do you know
part
that?
of it? Because a team that is so inconsistent like that, you would begin to start to think that that's exactly what happening. They're tired of listening to his rhetoric, or they're tired of the way he's doing things, or the way he's approaching things. And I think that's maybe why you're starting to get some of the inconsistency. I don't want to blame it on the coach. I want to blame it on the players, but at that professional level, they've got to be able to work in the same direction. And it seems like to me when you get a team that was as good as they were last year, and now you get these kind of inconsistencies, there's a disconnect there between everybody trying to push the boat in the same direction. And I don't mean to go PJ Flecky.
And I don't want you to take this wrong, but Boudreau doesn't care what the players think of him. Mike Yeo cared about that. Okay, and that was one of Mike's kind of his weaknesses, and that's what he's correcting now. And Bruce Boudreau's he doesn't. I don't know if you noticed, but he wasn't afraid to put third and fourth liners out there on the power play because our power play wasn't working. Okay, he's not afraid to put Daniel Winnick up with Granlund and Koivu the last 3 games. And worry about hurting feelings as far as, Koivu and Granlund think they should have a really good player on their left side, like Zucker.
Right.
He's trying to find something, and he will continue to try, and then, we'll see. I mean, if anybody can turn this team around, it is Bruce Boudreau, but the players have to be self-motivated to go out there and do it. It's not good. So hopefully in the next 3 weeks we'll see some changes. Maybe Stalock will be in charge. I don't know. They are weak on D. They did bring this Ryan Murphy up from Iowa today. I think that more to do with Spurgeon being sick at practice, so he left the ice early, and Spurgeon might not play tonight. And he has been our best defenseman. I mean, Suter, I still love Suter. I think he's the most reliable defenseman, and he's solid. He never gets. I mean, he's a rock back there. But Brodin, Dumba, Riley's. I mean, he's about to blow up right now. He is so lacking in confidence, and at that level, if you are lacking any confidence, Ringer, you're in trouble.
You're exposed very, very quickly.
And so we'll see if they can get out of this. I say not. We'll move on.
What do you want to talk about next? You want to talk about the Vikes and the NFL?
Sure.
Let's move there. That's at least something maybe we can smile about a little bit and have a good conversation. Teddy Bridgewater out of the equation. Case Keenum's quarterback rest of the season unless an injury or something.
Well, yeah. And one thing I'm getting a little tired there is the coach having to come out and say, "Well, we've decided Case Keenum's going to start again next week." Why even say such a stupid thing? Yeah. Okay. Case Keenum's your quarterback the rest of the way. If Teddy Bridgewater, I mentioned this 3 weeks ago, sees the field this year, the Vikings will be either out of the playoffs or they'll be one and done. Teddy's not ready. I think they kind of want to keep him for next year. This might not help them, but there are 3 or 4 pretty good quarterbacks in the upcoming draft. Not saying any of them are ready quite yet, but Keenum's playing well enough right now to say he's a quarterback for the near 3-4 years.
Yeah, best ranked quarterback probably, I think, in the NFL the last month.
And unlike Bradford, he isn't afraid to throw the ball more than 10 yards.
I agree with that, and I think the biggest thing for me about Case Keenum right now, and I think it comes with a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
When he's in the pocket,
Yeah.
he has this
sense.
16th sense, and I'm not even going to call it a sixth sense because he slides and he moves. And I said this on Thursday as I was watching the game. I was telling my son-in-law and my son-in-law to be probably, I said, the thing about it is, I said, he hasn't been taking sacks because he moves around so well in the pocket. 2 plays later, he got sacked, of course.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is he moves around, and when he's doing that, he's not watching the guys. He's still keeping this here. So to me, that's the biggest difference. I know I'm an offensive lineman. The offensive line has been pretty doggone good,
Real good.
With everything that's going on. And I know they've been talking about this with him having that scramble mode. It's sometimes tough to block for him. Well, I think they find the linemen aren't worried about it. They're just trying to do the best they can because they know Case is going to move around. And then the wide receivers are having this thing. As long as I keep running, he's finally going to get me the ball. If I can break open, even after 5-6 seconds, he's going to get me the ball. And I think right now, with that threat, you talked about going down the field, that threat of him moving around, teams have to respect the pass, and now that allows us to run the ball, even without your man Delvin Cook and all the other stuff. We've still been able to run the ball, and now we can stay balanced. And so it's been fun to watch, and I think Case Keenum is a big part of that. Offensive line has helped out, but Case Keenum has been a large part of that because of his mobility in the pocket.
Exactly right, and he has such good rapport and good communication with his receivers. Diggs and Thielen, he always seems to find them. He's finding Rudolph a lot more lately, which is really good, with 2 touchdowns against Detroit over the weekend. McKinnon, he seems to get him the ball when needed. 17, right? Seem to be. I think the big loss in all this is going to be probably Treadwell. I don't see him getting that second contract with the Vikings. Diggs and Thielen are just too good, and Treadwell is going to probably do the old Cordero Patterson. But you were talking about how he has like that sixth sense, Keenum.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of had that back my senior year in high school.
I've heard Nerdy talk about that.
Yeah, when I handed the ball off, I said I would go back and I would get that like sixth sense of maybe I should go to the left after I gave it to Raboin, or if I gave it to Castle, I'd go to my I kind of moved around back there. I never threw it, but I just handed the ball off. And
I had a chance to watch Elk River, talking about high school football, I had a chance to watch Elk River in the Prep Bowl this weekend. Straight T backfield, 2 tight ends, real tight, and a lot of ball fakes. Everybody runs like this with the ball at the start. If they make their fakes, everybody runs with the ball. And of course, Owatonna did a very good job of reading their keys and shutting them down, but it got to about carrying out your fakes. And some of these quarterbacks, these are high school kids. Some of these quarterbacks on play action pass were so good, with the head down and making it look like you stuck it in and then you turn around and throw the ball. Some of these kids in high school are being coached so well. It was really fun to watch the games on Friday and Saturday at US Bank and see how some of these kids are just, and I'm not judging anybody, but how some of these kids are so good because they're coached so well, and how some kids just, you feel bad for them because they're not getting that level. I was talking with my uncle, he said, you just feel bad for some of these kids because they don't have the coaches that have that knowledge, that whatever, and it's the way that it is. But
coaches also have to have the athletes. It's easy to teach a kid that who understands why he's doing what the coach is telling him, instead of a coach telling the kid to do it, and the player's kind of like, well, why am I doing this? This doesn't make, well, if the player knows why, it's a lot easier. But sounded like a pretty good weekend of football. I don't foresee any of these kids getting recruited by PJ Fleck because we got issues there.
Yeah, Croft has announced that he wants to leave the program.
Yeah.
Is there somebody else?
He woke up the next morning after the Wisconsin game. They were having their end-of-the-year banquet. I don't know why they would have it the day after
That's tradition.
game. Oh, it is?
It is
No,
true. It's the day after the last.
Well, it's a
regular season game.
stupid tradition. Okay, let's get rid of that, first of all. I mean, you got too many kids coming off such emotionals, whether they're highs or lows, and they make rash decisions. I think there was probably some things said. Obviously, some things are being said in the paper about who they're trying to get for a quarterback already next year. And Croft is out there playing the last 6-7 games, and he's wondering, well, they're not even considering me.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't blame the kid. I mean, not once did Fleck stand up for him in the papers. He could have nipped it in the bud and said, I got my quarterback, and not once he did that. Not one time did he do that.
But I don't think at the same time you don't want to be telling the kid after you just went 5-7 that, well, you're our quarterback next year. We're not going to have a competition that, well, you're going to go into spring ball with the job and it's your job to whatever. I don't think Demery Croft played that well to.
No, he didn't.
To deserve that kind of.
But he also, I'm a firm believer that the players need the support of their coach.
Sure.
And whether that coach thinks he is their future or not, he needs to, I guess, let the press know that that's what he's feeling. The press beat this thing to death. And I don't blame the Croft kid. Is he good enough to, go play somewhere else? Maybe go Division I AA. Maybe he'll head over to NDSU or something. And but I kind of felt a little bit. I actually felt more for the kid.
Okay.
Although I'm not a firm. I don't like kids quitting. Okay.
Yeah. But
at the same time, there had to be some things said somewhere along the line to put him in that situation. But anyways, Fleck.
You think he maybe not like he didn't like being suspended earlier in the year?
I don't think.
To play into the piece because that was the first thing that entered my mind. He wasn't happy that he got suspended and sat down and got told that
Well, yeah. Then you got the other court. I don't even remember his name. He's obviously out of the picture. And,
Rhoda. Connor Rhoda.
Yeah, the guy gets suspended and then gets his job back. So. That kind of tells me where Rhoda's game is, but
yeah, he's done. He's a senior, so he's done. So the Gopher quarterbacking situation is in turmoil. Though I heard they're looking at a JUCO quarterback, which may or may not help the situation.
I do have 4 more years of eligibility.
Huh. Let's use that up, Michael.
I don't know if it's illegal.
No,
Okay.
I think with your 4 years of hockey in the NCAA.
Yeah, and I apologize for jumping from the Vikings, which was a positive, all the way under the Gophers, but it was such a nice segue. We went over to the high school, but hey, what are you going to do?
So let's go back to the NFL quick here. Last night the Packers had their chance, and Antonio Brown made a couple of nice catches, and
Game over.
Game over.
It's did you see how Tomlin was on the sidelines?
No.
You didn't watch a game?
I watched bits and pieces of it. I was correcting papers last night, unfortunately, and I was.
Unfortunately, that because the papers were very well, or unfortunately
because I didn't get to watch a lot of the football game, and B because I was busy. I left it too long.
Well, you spend 2 weeks in the cities getting ready for the prep bowls. That's what happens.
That's what happens. You don't get your job done before you go on vacation. So.
But getting back to the question,
there wasn't really just that. I guess did the Packers have their chance against probably the team that thinks that they're the best team in the AFC.
Well, yeah, and then foolish them, they didn't attack. I didn't think when they had the ball with a minute and a half left, and even with 38 seconds left, you kind of had that feeling, that catch. I don't know if you've seen the catch by Antonio Brown.
I did see the catch.
But that's amazing stuff, and there's no wonder he's the best, by far, he's the best receiver. I don't care what Julio Jones did 1 week. Okay, but Antonio does it week in and week out. He does it against double teams. And Big Ben he's kind of a good leader, and I like those 6'8" quarterbacks that can look over the offensive line and see the whole field. And that's a dangerous team. I still think the Patriots will beat them, but it is a dangerous team. And Tomlin was upset at his team, more or less his defense, because Green Bay was running roughshod. They were running the ball, passing the ball. I mean, Hundley had his best game ever. This Jamal Williams, who's kind of came off the chopping block, is like 3rd or 4th number running back in the Green Bay depth chart at the beginning of the year. He got like 200 yards of offense, and so the Packers made it entertaining. It kind of teased their fans a little bit, thinking that they can get back in it. But now they have 2 easy ones coming up. They have Cleveland and they have Tampa Bay, their next 2 games. So they win those. Rodgers can come off.
I saw him throwing. I was
For
watching
week 15.
PTI. I saw him chucking the ball. He looked pretty
So if they
effortless.
win their next 2, they're 7-6. Rodgers comes back out. They win out. They end up 10-6. You never know.
You never
and
know.
one of those last 3 games are against the Vikings.
So, well, I'll ask. So you just already told me the answer for the AFC. You still think New England?
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Can anybody touch Philadelphia in the NFC? Is it a done
Absolutely.
deal?
No.
No.
Far from it.
Far from it. Because
from it.
I'm hearing a lot of people saying
Teams with good
last night,
defenses.
Rodney Smith, right, on NBC basically said they asked who's the biggest nemesis to the Eagles, and he said the Eagles. Because he said nobody's got any business in the NFC.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Disagree. I mean, if you have
Too many good quarterbacks?
there's defenses in the NFC, and it's unfortunate that Seattle doesn't have their full
Complimented players.
Yeah, I mean, there's Sherman, Chancellor are both gone. I know they lost a couple linebackers, defensive, so they don't have their full defense. That would have been a team that would have given them everything. The Vikings, I think, Carolina. Okay, these are strong defenses, Ringer, with good linebackers. And
What about the Rams? Are they in the mix or no? Because I know you were against Jared Goff, and you've come around and said he's back in your good graces. I mean, but you feel like LA doesn't have the defense to.
They do, but I think the Vikings kind of opened that up with Case Keenum. I mean, Case Keenum had a great game against the Rams. It was on the road, but they got to understand the Rams got to play good defense on the road. They play well at home, but they shut down New Orleans pretty good. But they just can't play their defense as well at home. And whoever plays Philly better be able to play defense on the road. And I think the Vikings proved that against Detroit. I think the score was closer in the game, to be honest with you. I think the Vikings could have buried them a number of times. But I think the Vikings are definitely a legitimate chance.
You're not saying that the referees helped Detroit stay in the game at all? You're not saying that?
That was by far not. I've watched a lot of games, Ringer. We're talking since 1968. I mean, I've seen the Drew Pearson push-off on Nate Wright. I mean, that was nothing compared to some of the calls these refs made on the Thanksgiving Day game in Detroit.
Did the Fox and the NFL get together with the refs and tell them, A, 13 penalties in the first half is not good, and B, we got to make sure Detroit stays in this because we got to have people watching?
Yeah, I was wondering if the CIA and the FBI were there also. There's Lee Harvey, he'll come walking down the stands, but the conspiracy theorists, they were out there that day, and I don't buy that. I just think I've always thought NFL refs
aren't as bad as the NHL.
A lot of them are too old,
Huh?
and that's kind of a discrimination comment, I guess. But they can't keep up with these guys. I mean, and to be honest with you, I mean, most of these refs are 48 to 55, I would guess, most of them. And they're good. They know the rules, okay, because there is a lot of rules in football. But they miss way too many calls. And I think instant replays probably cause that because they always know, well, if I screw up, somebody's... But they can't call, you can't throw the red flag out on pass interferences, so...
You can in the CFL.
They made a lot of mistakes on Thursday, and don't be surprised if that crew gets a couple phone calls.
I would guess.
I would
think
so.
that they would. Before we leave football, CFL, of course, had their Grey Cup last night. Toronto, poor Calgary. After they lost last year to Ottawa, they just absolutely blew it, choked it away, had a chance to seal it up. I know you probably didn't watch because you don't watch the CFL. But Calgary had a chance to put it away. Guys trying to go a little extra effort down by the 5-yard line, up by 8 points. Guy picks it up, runs it back 109 yards for a touchdown. 2-point conversion to tie it, and then Toronto kicks a field goal to win it. And a snowstorm in Ottawa. It was fun to watch. That's part of the reason why I was not watching the Pittsburgh Packer game, because I was watching the CFL.
That's like going to a mini putt-putt.
I know.
Okay, shooting a low score and saying I'm the best golfer.
For the championship.
No, it's like you going to a mini putt-putt, clipping me by 6 and saying I'm a better golfer. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. CFL, I'm guessing there's going to be some questions on that later, but CFL doesn't count. Sorry.
Alabama losing.
Yeah.
Do they drop out of the top 4?
Yes.
They're the number 1 team. They lose by 12 points on the road.
Unfortunate. It's the
So who's
old.
going to be top 4?
You know what I like? All these experts, Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso absolutely went right on TV on Saturday and says, if Alabama loses to Auburn, they are out. Okay? They talk about the eye test.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Alabama, the eye test on Saturday was not a good team. They were a good team, not a great team.
Okay.
Auburn was a better team. Okay? They should have been beat 2 weeks ago by Mississippi State, I think.
Probably.
Okay, so Alabama has not played well. Of course, they're going to get some votes because of their coach, and they're not out of it by any means. I don't know what needs to happen in the SEC. One of those 2 teams are going to get in, of course, Georgia or Auburn. Both of them will not get in. So
I agree. Whoever loses, yeah.
And same thing in the ACC. I think the winner of the Clemson-Miami game gets in.
Okay, there's 2. And then
Oklahoma's automatically.
Oklahoma
in.
is not going to lose to TCU.
No. Oh, where's it at?
I believe it's.
Is it on a neutral
it's
site?
Neutral, no, I don't know that. I think it's neutral site.
Ooh,
So-
TCU's good. TCU's a team
But
that
Oklahoma
can beat
just beat them here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So you want to throw Oklahoma into the mix? There's 3.
them. And Wisconsin or Ohio State.
So the Big Ten champion has to get in.
Absolutely.
Okay. I had talked.
I think it would help more if Wisconsin won. They would be a
Yes.
no-brainer.
Yes.
Now Ohio State getting in with 2
2
losses, and especially
But
with
Auburn's going to get in with 2 losses if they win.
that helps their point. And there's Alabama sitting there at 1 loss. So
I agree.
it's going to be fun. I hope it doesn't turn into, well, we better make it an 8-team thing, because the next thing you know, we're going to have 16 in the doggone thing.
I think this is the thing that I'd like to mention on this. Somebody said last year after they got done picking their 4 teams, they said something to the effect, we are going to start honoring conference champions. Conference champions should be in this Final Four business. Well,
Regular season or?
the tournament champ.
Tournament, okay.
Yep. So you're talking now, you got 5 power conferences, you got 4 spots. So you're telling me that you got to win a conference championship. That's what this person said. They said they were going to do this. So if Wisconsin wins and goes 13-0 and is the Big Ten champion, they should be in. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I don't know Wisconsin. If Wisconsin will go lay an egg like Ohio State did last year and get whooped 38-0 in the semifinals like they did against Clemson and make an awful showing, I'm afraid that's where Wisconsin.
Did you see how they shut down that juggernaut offense, the Minnesota Gophers, on Saturday?
I did. And
What, they get 3 first downs?
So Northwestern should also be going to the Final Four because they actually beat us 39-0. But here's my point. I still believe, even though Alabama's nicked up, and I agree the eye test hasn't shown me, I still think they're probably one of the top 4.
I agree.
The Miami-Clemson winner deserves to go. The Auburn-Georgia winner deserves to go. And then you got to take, if Oklahoma wins, Oklahoma's in. If Oklahoma is not in, then I see Wisconsin.
So you're basically saying it doesn't matter if Wisconsin wins or not, Alabama should get in before them.
I am saying I think Alabama, this is what I believe. I believe Alabama is better than Wisconsin.
I agree with you.
So to me, if Wisconsin gets in there and Alabama doesn't, where Alabama plays in a very competitive SEC, and I'm not saying the Big Ten's not competitive, but Wisconsin missed out on some major opportunities, and I know that's not their fault, but they didn't play the schedule that Alabama played. They also had Florida State the first game of the year when Florida State still had their quarterback. I know we can sit here and argue all that and all this other stuff, and I agree some of their wins haven't been as great, but they do play in the SEC. That, to me, should have a little bearing on how competitive that conference is. And like I said, I'm not a believer that if Wisconsin goes 13-0, they have to be in there. I don't buy that argument.
Okay, now Wisconsin is in the western side of the Big Ten, correct? Now Minnesota's also over on that western side. Say the Gophers just went 13-0. Would your opinion of the Big Ten champion and the playoff champion, the Minnesota Gophers, getting in, would they go in?
I understand where you're trying to push
Let's
this.
see where you're at there, big boy.
And I'll say it this way: as much as Wisconsin is a bane to the University of Minnesota, I have a lot of respect for what Wisconsin's been able to do for over the past 25 years, giving themselves an opportunity to play with the Ohio States, the Penn States, the Michigans, and showing that they have the opportunity. So to me, I hope in my mind, I obviously have a lot of love for the Gophers. I would think that I would hopefully be saying the same things, but possibly not.
Probably not.
I hear what you're saying. I just don't think Wisconsin, and they have their injury issues as well, just like Alabama does, lost their linebackers, and that was one of the key pieces to the defense for Wisconsin. Once January 1st rolls around, who's going to be healthy? Is this being weighed into the decision next week when things are being decided? And of course, I guess I'm watching these other selection shows. Last year in basketball, I think we had a little bit of this, and now the volleyball came out the other day. 2 weeks ago, they gave a sneak peek into where everybody was ranked, where they would seed them if it was today. Nebraska sitting number 2. Penn State number 1 in the nation, Nebraska number 2. Nebraska runs the table, beats everybody they have the last 2 weeks, and last night they got seeded 5th.
Gophers 7.
Gophers are 7. And you kind of sit there and you go, how can we
West
win
Coast
every
bias,
game?
right?
How can we win every game? We were number 2, and then the next week we're 5. And see, here we get into this politics. Well, we want to get Nebraska on the road. We want to see how they'll drive if they're going to win. When they go to Kentucky, how many people will they bring to Kentucky with them to follow along because they're one? And it just isn't right.
Well, it goes back, Ringer, to women's softball, where
Yeah,
Gophers were seeded and had to go to Alabama.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that was like a travesty. The Gophers were the number 1 team in the country based on polls.
Yeah.
And then they got a 17 seed. So
to me, the NCAA is playing this mind game.
I think the Big Ten should start their own
tournament.
Not be a part of the NCAA.
There you go.
They could have their own rules, pay the kids like they deserve. That's another whole
anyway,
topic.
it's a tough animal, and I just feel like the NCAA is doing more behind the scenes work rather than just seeding the teams and letting them do what they need to do.
Yeah.
There seems to be this other stuff going on. So
we are just going, man.
You want to talk about the Timberwolves as long as we're talking about up and down teams and teams
that's a dysfunctional unit. Okay, I mean teams are laughing at them. Miami, they went out to Miami and got beat. Their coach said we're going to put 6'7" guy on Towns and pressure him and let him shoot from the outside, and he did. He got it's a dysfunctional team.
Yet they're going to win the Northwest Division in the Western Conference and be a top 3 seed in the playoffs.
Really? We heard it from Ringer. How many times has he been right this year?
Name one player that plays for Portland besides Damian Lillard.
The other guard.
Yeah, exactly. Utah. Who besides Ricky Rubio plays for Utah?
Oh, there's a Gasol there still, but he's hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Who plays for? Let's see. Who else is in the Northwest? Who did I miss? Oklahoma City. Of course, they're.
Oh, they're
you want to talk about? You want to talk
Westbrook?
about dysfunctional? Westbrook. You want to talk about anywhere that Carmelo Anthony goes, it's sure to implode. And who did I miss?
Well, it's Houston.
Oh no, Houston's in the Southwest with San Antonio. Who did I miss? Denver. Name one player that plays for Denver.
Dan Issel.
1976. So anyway, my point is
Kiki Vandeweghe.
There is nobody in the Northwest Division that, except maybe OK City, that can even remotely think about whatever. You know what? I'm wrong about that. OKC, no. Utah, Portland, Denver, us. It's got to be Kansas.
Here's where it's at again, Ringer. You just made my point valid again.
Again.
Remember we talked about baseball, why I don't watch it. Okay, same thing with NBA. You're right, I don't know. I mean, I go back to the 70s and 80s. Yeah. I can name the whole 76ers lineup, Denver, all the LA Lakers.
Jamal Wilkes.
Happy Hairston from the side, and Gail Goodrich running the point. I mean, they had personalities. Nowadays, there's nothing. You got LeBron and you got
that's all
a couple of the big boys, and that's it.
That's all they show.
And the Wolves have a bunch of underachievers that think they're better than they are. They don't like to play defense. It's not fun.
It's really bizarre to me, and we probably could wrap up and do the Q&A. But North Dakota State football is ranked number 2 in FCS. And I don't know if we've even talked about them this fall on this show.
I'm hearing it too.
Once we've mentioned it, but you haven't mentioned anything. I don't even know who the new Carson Wentz is. Who's the quarterback for North
If you
Dakota?
said it, I would say that's the guy.
No, okay,
He's
well,
kind
I
of got a cool name like Stony Case or something like that.
I have no idea, but yet they're ranked number 2 in the nation. They're going to be playing San Diego at home on Saturday.
That's who won between Northern Arizona and San Diego?
San Diego
Okay,
won.
my brother-in-law Terry and my sister Barb are going to the game.
Okay.
And he's trying to work on tickets for the 9th, which might cause issues again. I'll talk to you later about that.
Yeah, we know that.
But anyways, they're going to the game this Saturday when they play San Diego, you said?
Yep.
And yeah, we haven't mentioned much on the number 1 seed, of course, is James Madison, the defending national champions, who for some reason they never play against North Dakota State during the regular season because North Dakota State plays in the Big West or
The Missouri Valley.
Missouri Valley. So they play basically everybody. I think the Missouri Valley is much more loaded than the east side.
Absolutely.
It's not even close. But
4 teams, by the way, in the final 16 teams are from the Missouri Valley, South Dakota, South
Okay.
Dakota State, Northern Iowa, and
South Dakota did win, by the way, this
South Dakota
weekend.
did,
So
yep.
you always got to be careful of those South Dakota teams. They always seem to show up when it counts. But should be a good run. They run a good playoff system. They have 16, 20,
24 teams.
24 teams, and the top 4 all got buys, and now they're going to jump in this weekend. So we'll talk more about the Bison. I will wear my sweatshirt next week for the Bison, and because they will not lose at home against San Diego.
There you go. Division 2, of course, Mankato State still around. They're into the final 8, and St. Thomas also
Thomas,
in
yeah.
Division 3 into the final 8 as they run down the road. St. Thomas has got their, they play Mary Hardin Baylor, who was the defending Division 3 champs. That's who they play this coming week. So
Where's that at?
that is in Texas.
Mary Hardin Bailey?
Baylor.
Baylor?
Baylor University.
Okay.
Right there, somewhere close.
Sounds
in
like a
Texas.
cocktail you can get over at Looney's Brew or something.
There you go. Anything else that
And
we?
by the way, that's where we are tonight.
That is where we are.
Looney's Brew, downtown Rainier.
We're back.
The home away from home, I spend a lot more time here in the summertime. I like to take pontoon rides over here and see the boys out on the deck. They have the full bar going downstairs. Believe it or not, there's places to park. If not, I pull my boat right up to shore and I'll put my sea legs up and I walk
You're
right
ready to
off
roll.
and I'm ready to go. But fun place to be. It's a great place. Come on out.
Q&A? Paul?
I think they'll ever just get rid of the refs and just go video.
Ooh.
There's been talk.
You know, just have like bouncers out there in case the fight breaks out. Well, get somebody out there.
I really don't see that. I would think it would ruin the game. We can't boo and yell at.
Who are you gonna play?
Yeah,
You gotta blame
but
somebody.
you'd spend so much time watching that, and then there'd be none of the game would be happening because there'd be replays on every doggone thing that happened. But
And
you know,
as long as you're bashing the CFL, I will. This is how crazy it was. You can do penalties or non-penalties. So last night, both coaches get 1 challenge in the game. That's the rule. So they both challenged non-pass interference calls. Well, you know, just about on every play,
There's pass interference.
There's a pass interference call, whether it's by the ball or not by the ball.
or holding. You could call holding
I mean, you
almost
can
on
call
every
just
play.
about every time. So of course, when you need a break, instead of you only get 1 timeout in the CFL per half, you just throw the flag out and say, well, there was pass interference over there on that guy because he told me he got grabbed. And so they go back and watch the video, and of course, every receiver's,
Yeah.
of course, you see this, and all right, first down, and off you go. So
Now,
I don't know if I agree with that.
If I'm sitting here saying yes and kind of agreeing with you, does that mean I'm talking about the CFL?
Yes.
I don't think
You
it does.
Yes, you
I don't
are.
think
We're
it qualifies.
discussing it right now.
I am, but that's ending. No, the season's over.
The season is over.
I never knew it started,
To
to be
Toronto
honest.
Argonauts.
I never knew the season started. You know, it's 3 downs. Yeah, give me a break.
What else? Anything?
What do you got against miniature golf?
Oh, nothing. I'll tell you.
can't compare it to big time
I'll tell you a little story. I mean, we were out in Florida for our annual trip with my brother Jer and his wife Patty and my sister Brenda and her husband Darcy and of course my brother-in-law Terry and my sister Barb. And of course Diana and I. So we go out to St. Pete Beach area and we did go miniature golfing.
It's a blast.
Okay, my brother-in-law Darcy beat me by 11 and he beat Gerald by 12 strokes.
And your point being?
We had to listen to him all. Now I know how he feels when me and Gerald go on him. But Darcy's a pretty good putter, but I mean, you're knocking things off like clown heads and walls and bumpers and all that. And here,
I know your
and
geometry.
I'm trying to read breaks. Well, there's rocks on the greens. You can't read a rock on a break. You're going to hit the rock and it's going to go. So all I heard all week then was we should next year we're going on the last day. Because I had to listen for 5 straight days. Hey, Mike, should we go golfing again? That's all Darcy wanted to talk about is how he beat up me and Gerald. So I have lots against miniature golf, putt-putt, because I'm not a real good putter in the first place. And yeah, it's really tough to talk smack when you're putting on fake greens with clown heads. But you would beat me at that. I know you would, because you kind of look like you could jump on the lake during their little tournaments out at Thunderbird and probably do pretty well. Correct?
I don't think so.
Okay, but good question. Fair, you know. What's the old saying? There's no such thing as dumb questions. There's just dumb people asking questions.
I don't know about the last part, but
No.
anything else?
What happened to the snow and when is it coming back?
The snow melted. Okay.
That's what happens.
That's what happens when we get warm weather, Paul. I know. You know, down in the cities they have nothing. There's people golfing. Speaking of golf, there's people golfing. Like Common Man, a radio personality on KFan, 12 to 3. He's golfing every morning, and he's loving it. And it doesn't look like much. There's snow in the forecast, but the temperatures are supposed to be all in the upper 30s, mid 30s. So whatever does fall is going to melt. So I would say sometime after my birthday, which is Friday, December 1st, coming up shortly.
By the way, I did hear that people were ice skating out in front of Shay Shay or behind Shay Shay over the weekend. Does this not seem?
It was like Game of Truth or Dare.
I don't know. That's what they told me. They were out skating.
People by like Tilson's Creek area though, by Thanksgiving, they were
skating.
Yeah, you know, the water's a little shallower. You get 4 or 5 feet of water. It's probably okay.
It's all like 7 inches, I heard.
Yeah. 7 inches?
So,
Okay.
do I win the bet for by November 20th? I said they'd have ice by November 20th.
No.
No.
Prediction wrong again there.
Again.
New York Giant guy. But anyways, what else you got? Anything? Any other questions? You guys good? I'm good. Don't take us too serious.